GS score,
GS score, GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score, GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score है, GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score,
GS score.
GS score.
Hello everyone, welcome to GS Score. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about one initiative, and that is question to concept, wherein we will be discussing about environment and ecology, and the topic of discussion is climate change. In this particular video, we will be taking one previous year question related to climate change, and based on that question, we will try to understand the concept involved in that question. Also, we will discuss the approach that you can follow to write that answer. And towards the end, we will also discuss the probable questions based on the question that we are going to discuss. So let us start with the question. We will be discussing about question that UPSC has asked in mains of 2023, and the question is, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC has predicted a global sea level rise of about 1 meter by the end of this century, that is AD 2100. What would be its impact in India and the countries in the Indian Ocean region, right? So very straightforward question. We know that there is impact of climate change in the form of rise in sea levels, and what will be the result of this rise in sea level on various countries, including India and other countries in the Indian Ocean region, that you are supposed to write in this particular answer. So the concept involved in this particular case is rise in sea level. So we know that due to climate change or global warming, there is melting of glaciers, and as a result of melting of glaciers, we are able to see rise in sea level. So rise in sea level is a direct result of global warming. Rise in sea level is a direct result of global warming, and it can be attributed to melting of glaciers due to global warming. Melting of glaciers. Along with melting of glaciers, rise in the sea level is also a result of thermal expansion of water. Thermal expansion of water. And both these are caused by global warming. Fine. So that is the reason behind rise in sea level. And as sea levels rise, there will be number of impacts that coastal area, especially the coastal area, we will be able to see. So those impacts are supposed to be discussed in this particular answer. So let us try to understand what should be the approach that you should follow in order to write this answer. So firstly, in the introductory part, if you have some numbers, it would be better, because in GS3, always try to use some numbers so that you make your answer little more specific. So in the case of IPCC, you must be aware, IPCC has given a special report on oceans and cryosphere. In climate change, right? So what will be the impact of, what will be the condition of oceans and cryosphere in the era of climate change? So this report has been given by IPCC, and as per this report, by the end of this century, rise in sea level. So as per this report, rise in sea level will be in the range of 0.95 feet to 3.61 feet, right? So that will happen by the end of this century. So there are clear-cut evidences that have been put forward by IPCC in order to argue its point, and also we have seen rise in sea level in the first 2 decades of 21st century as well. So it is not mere a hypothesis, it is a reality. So that is what is the introductory point. Then in body part, firstly we will discuss about the impact on India. Impact on India. See, impact on India and impact on other countries will remain more or less similar, but there are few exceptions that we will discuss during the discussion of impact on other Indian Ocean region countries. So, on India, impact is firstly in the form of coastal flooding. Coastal flooding will increase. Similarly, there will be inundation of saline water, especially in the groundwater of the coastal region. That will have its impact on agriculture. Agricultural area may reduce. Agricultural area may reduce. Similarly, urban infrastructure, especially in cities like Mumbai, Chennai, etc., will be affected. And they say that by 2050, almost 30% of area of Mumbai will be inundated by water. So, land area will reduce in Mumbai by 2050. Then we can even talk about loss of livelihood in the form of tourism, because coastal tourism will reduce because of coastal flooding like instances, right. So, these are some of the impacts that we can highlight. Even there may be impact in the form of loss of biodiversity, loss of coastal biodiversity, loss of coastal biodiversity. So, these kind of impacts we can highlight with respect to India. Now, impacts on other Indian Ocean countries. So, more or less impacts will be similar. For example, coastal flooding will be seen in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, etc. Then there will be lack of fresh water, especially in countries like Bangladesh. Then there will be an existential threat. Initially to countries like Maldives, which may even be there for countries like Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka also is an island state or island country. Also, there will be inundation of islands, especially Indonesian islands will face problems, will face inundation because of rise in sea level. So, all these impacts you can highlight in the body part of your answer. And then in conclusion, what you can write. So, in conclusion, you can write about the role that each country is supposed to play under the Paris Climate Agreement, and those commitments given by various countries in the form of nationally determined contribution need to be strengthened, and they should be implemented on ground in their letter and spirit. Then only we will be able to see some change on the ground. Otherwise, these impacts we will have to face, which especially will affect low-lying countries like Maldives. So, that is what is the way, that is what the approach that you can follow in order to write this particular answer. Now, based on the question that we have discussed, what can be the probable questions that UPSC may ask? So, the probable questions will be related to impact of climate change on various other sectors of life. For example, first question, examine the role of climate resilient agricultural practices in enhancing the adaptive capacity of farmers to climate change impacts. Discuss the initiatives taken in India in this regard. So question is related to impact of climate change on agriculture, and that's why what kind of climate resilient practices should be followed in various countries, and how we in India are trying to promote climate resilient agriculture. So that is what is the first question. In the second question, how are changing rainfall patterns and extreme weather events affecting agriculture, water resources, health and livelihoods in different regions of India? So here question is asking you to write about the impact of climate change on various aspects of our life. For example, impact on agriculture, impacts on water resources, health and livelihood of people in different parts of India. So these are two probable questions that you can try based on the previous year question that we have discussed. Thank you.